this is Frode, and welcome to ActualizeNotes TV, where I deliver 5 big ideas that we can use to actualize our potential, and I give you some tips on how we can apply the ideas. Today we have another great book, The Warrior Ethos by Steven Pressfield. The Warrior Ethos. Steven Pressfield is just an extraordinary person. He is a best-selling fiction and non-fiction writer of books, and I've already covered his trilogy on battling resistance, which are The War of Art, Do the Work, and Turning Pro. So you can check out those videos if you'd like. I'll leave a link to them in the video. Now, the Warrior Ethos is mainly written to those people, warriors in uniforms, who protect us and our countries. But there are also a lot of ideas that anyone can embody to actualize their potential. And the Warrior Ethos is not as much a how-to book, or that tells you to do this or do that, but it's more a book that shows you some examples of supreme virtue, values, and the character of a warrior. So if you're into that, and lots of stories about ancient Sparta and Greece in general, you'll love the book. As always, I have 5 big ideas that I'm excited to share with you. First one is ethos. The word ethos is defined in the dictionary as the moral character, nature, disposition, or customs of a people or culture. The ethos is also derived from the same Greek root as the word ethics. And therefore, the warrior ethos is a conception of what is right or what is wrong, a conception of virtues and vices. That's the warrior ethos. The second big idea is selflessness. The basic idea here is that we should perform selfless acts, and that the group always comes before the individual. And he shares an amazing story to prove this point. Once, Alexander and his army was walking through a waterless desert. The column of his army stretched through miles, and therefore thousands of men and horses were suffering from thirst. Suddenly, a detachment of scouts came riding towards Alexander with a helmet in their hands. They had found a small spring, and they had filled up the helmet with water and now gave it to Alexander. And you can just imagine the eyes of all of the men. Every man's eye was fixed upon their commander. What would he do now? And Alexander thanked the scouts for bringing him this gift before he lifted up the helmet and then poured out every single drop of water without touching even one of them. And a great roar of cheers thundered through the whole army, and one man was known to have said that with a king like this, no force on earth can stand against us. And that's a supreme example of selflessness. Alexander showed that the group comes before the individual. Instead of destroying the unity of his group, his army, by drinking the water himself without any of the others being able to drink it, he kept the unity together by not drinking when the others couldn't. I try to perform acts of selflessness by focusing and stressing less about the amount of views, subscribers, and money I might earn from doing this work, and instead focus on how I can serve as profoundly as possible. Selfless service is where it's at. How can you embody this virtue yourself of selflessness? Care less about yourself and more about others. The third big idea is follow me. In the historical battles that Alexander the Great fought at the river of Granicus, Issus, and Gaugamela, he would conduct his battles like this. At the head of a 1,600 detachment of a different group of soldiers, Alexander would ride himself on his warhorse Bucephalus. And Alexander, being the first into battle, would pride himself to be the first one to strike the enemy. And this story proves the principle of leading by examples. In other words, follow me. I've tried to embody this principle by embodying the ideas that I preach. In other words, practice what I preach. How can you embody this virtue? Lead by example. Take the personal initiative. And you might even inspire others to do so by being the first one into battle. The fourth big idea is discipline. In the book The Bhagavad Gita, the warrior Arjuna is called upon to slay her foes that threaten her path towards becoming his. Arjuna is a man, his best and highest self. And these foes, in other words, are addictions. Foes in the Bhagavad Gita are addictions. And further, to slay these foes, Arjuna is instructed to constantly practice self-discipline. And what that means for us is that we seek out our addictions or bad habits, and then we systematically remove each of them, so they don't they don't block our path towards actualizing our full potential. Darren Hardy echoes the same wisdom in The Compound Effect, and Darren Hardy, by the way, is the founder of Success magazine. So in the book he says that he believes in testing his vices. Therefore, every so often he goes on a vice fast. Vice fast. And vice, by the way, can be defined as immoral behavior or bad habits or addictions or anything that's not good. So he goes on this vice fast, and he does that for 30 days to prove that he is the alpha dog in the relationship between him and his habits. His vices are coffee, ice cream, wine, and movies. When he takes a glass of wine, he wants to make sure that he does it to celebrate something and not drown his mood. My vices are also coffee, ice cream, and movies. So therefore, I am now on a vice fast of both coffee, since that was a pretty one to remove, and movies. So why don't you go on a vice fast for 30 days? Practice the self-discipline of the warrior Arjuna to slay your foes, slay your addictions. It all starts with picking one vice, one bad habit, and staying away from it for 30 days. Then the fifth big idea, which I really love, is the hardest thing. Steven says, the hardest thing in the world is to be ourselves. Who are we? Our family tells us. Society tells us. Laws and customs tell us. But what do we say? Ralph Waldo Emerson echoes the same wisdom in his essay on self-reliance, where he says, we but half express ourselves and are ashamed of that divine idea which each of us represents. And he also has my favorite quote from the essay, trust thyself, every heart vibrates to that iron string. So are you trusting yourself enough that you can be yourself? Do what you feel called to do, without caring about the judgments and opinions of other people. I do this by teaching personal development through these videos. And that's regardless of the opinions people might have, that I'm too young, too inexperienced, too bad at public speaking, etc. So, remember, Steve Jobs also said, your time is limited, so don't waste it living someone else's life. You need to remember, need to trust yourself and be yourself. The hardest thing in the world is to be ourselves. That was the hardest thing. Discipline. Abstain from a habit for 30 days to show that you're the alpha dog in the relationship between you and your habit. Follow me. Teach, lead by example, by taking personal initiative to be the first one to do something. Selflessness. perform acts of selflessness, and remember that the group comes before the individual. Think more about others, less about yourself. Ethos. The warrior ethos is a conception about what's right or wrong, about virtues and vices. That was a quick look at the warrior ethos. Thank you, Steven Pressfield. I really hope you'll write more non-fiction books. I highly enjoy them. And what's the one idea that jumped out at you? And how can you make it a more practically embodied part of you starting right now? Well, I hope you enjoyed this video and that you can continue to actualize your potential so we can create a better world together. Thanks for watching. Have a splendid day. See ya.